As we get ready for the upcoming 2024 Euros, you're taking a look at Group B. 3 of the top 10 teams in the world featured in this group in Spain, Croatia, and Italy. Albania, maybe not as highly ranked in the world, but still a lot of competition. This group will certainly be exciting, Nico, when you think about what this tournament means. You've got the defending champions in here in Italy. You've got Spain with so much to prove. Before we jump in here, what stands out to you about this group?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of several tricky groups. And Italy hasn't been convincing as of late, and we know Croatia's got that fight in them consistently in tournaments. They're obviously not to be underestimated, and Spain with a lot to prove. It should be a fun group.
Let's discuss this group as we focus in on the Italian side here, and we'll bring in a friend of the show to discuss. We've got Mike Grella, fresh off of the soccer tournament appearance, joining us to help break down this Italian side. Mike, thanks for being with us. Before we jump into the Euros, I got to ask you, man, we talked about it as we were in break, the soccer tournament wrapping up. You participated in it. You're finally getting your legs back under you, like you said. Just what was that tournament like for you? You scored what was one of the best goals of the tournament. How was that experience for you?
Haley, I am exhausted. I'm still exhausted, and that's the truth. You said, you know, I made an appearance at the soccer tournament. I felt like I made a million appearances at the soccer tournament. It was just game after game, and it was just an ice bath and recovery, and the quads are pretty dead. But I got to tell you, it was a lot of fun. I saw a lot of old friends. I got to see, obviously, Materazzi and Giuseppe Rossi, and Agüero was part of it. Nani, Sasha Kleshin was there, Jimmy Conrad. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, Ali Krieger was down there as well. So it was just too much fun. We built a really unique bond in our group and our team with Concacaf, with Pat McAfee. And it was special. It's something that I'll remember, I think, for the rest of my life. It was a really unique experience.
Grella, can we nominate your goal to the Puskás? You think that's possible?
It was, Nico, I was saying earlier as well, thank God I scored the goal because I had nothing else. So the goal comes. It's a Pat McAfee assist also, which people don't know that he played football. So it was a really good assist, really good finish. Very thankful that it happened. But again, we'll see what happens next year if it ends up happening again, if I go down.
Hey, real quick, before we jump into Italy here, I know Charlie this morning on Morning Footy was maybe flirting with the idea of coming out of retirement to play. You guys got room on your team for Charlie to join?
I'm sure. Absolutely. I'm sure. I mean, that's one of the things, like we finished in the quarterfinal, which I think was a really good finish for our first year. I think what also a lot of people don't understand is it's not really an indoor soccer game and it's not really an outdoor football game. It's somewhere in between. So we did a lot of analyzing and looking at, well, what we could have done better, and maybe some guys that we can add next year. So for sure, Chuck would be one of the primo guy on that list.
All right, let's talk Italian competition here. Obviously, they are the defending champions of the Euros going into this, but as Nico and I kind of discussed, Grella, this is a very tough group. It's not going to be a cakewalk to get through. What's just your reaction, your thoughts to this Italian side that's had kind of an up and down international run over the last couple of years, and how do you expect them to fare here in Group B?
I think the reality of the situation with Italy is that they missed the last 2 World Cups, right? So there's no hiding that there's a lack of quality or some sort of disconnect, whether it be between the federation and the style of play or the manager or the players or whatever it may be, missing the last 2 World Cups. And then they go on to win the Euro. And if you really call a spade, it was a legendary defensive performance from Donnarumma, who looked like he was one of the best goalkeepers in the world at the time, who has not proven to be that good anymore. It was Chiellini, Bonucci, these guys that you won't see anymore for a long time. So there is for sure a lack of quality and a lack of conviction in the team. I went to go watch them at a friendly against Ecuador, I believe, at Red Bull Arena. I didn't think they were very good. They got the result 2-0, but I didn't think they were very good. And Spalletti came in and he wanted to play what he played in Naples, which was a 4-3-3, what he played it for Napoli, how they won the Scudetto, and an attacking style of football and a modern style of football. When we met with Spalletti back in Italy, back during before the Champions League game, he was so proud of how his team attacked and recovered. So he really was a big fan of this 4-3-3 formation. But now, just before the tournament, now we're talking about 3 months before the tournament, he's gone to a 5-3-2, sort of more like what Inter plays. And that surprised me. Does he have the personnel to do it? Is it not his favorite formation to play? Can he be still attacking minded out of that? Because there's been some low scoring games for them in the lead up to this. it's all going to be seen come the first match day. But they're in a difficult group as well with Spain, Croatia. Obviously, we know how good they could be. And Albania, albeit they have the worst odds to win this trophy, they're by far the biggest dogs. They are not an easy team to play against. They have a lot of players that play in the Serie A, actually.
Grella, I echo a lot of what you're saying, and especially if you look at the last two warm-up games, granted, neither was the ideal 11 that you would think Italy's going to come out with in a first game in a Euro, but the performance from the teams, I specifically saw the game against Turkey, which was 0-0. It was non-convincing. I didn't see the game against Bosnia, so I couldn't speak to that, but it was only a 1-0 win. What is there in this Italy team that you can grab onto and say, all right, that's the avenue we should go towards?
I think you have to look at it as Di Marco, Barella, and Bastoni, right? Inter played some fantastic football. They won the Scudetto by a mile. The way that they played, Spalletti, I think, has leaned on that. He said, okay, who's the best guys in this group? How can we make them all look good and play to their strengths? And I think that's what he's come up with. He's come up with this 5-3-2 or whatever you want to call it. You want to call it a 3-5-2, that's fine. But with wing backs, and so Di Marco, Barella, and Bastoni will fit into that sort of system the best, and everyone else will have to make do. And I think you have Scamacca. You don't know what you're going to get with Scamacca. He was really quiet the first half of the season. He's had some years where really up and down, and obviously through injuries, didn't really do well when he went to England. But then of late, he's been on fire, right? He's been the talk of the town with how many goals he scored and how he's scoring them. So with Italy, I think for the first time in a long time, there's a lot of uncertainty with them, you know, what worries me the most is Spalletti likes to play attacking football, but now he's opted to play in this formation it's quite defensive and it's quite pragmatic, which is not really what they brought Spalletti in for in the first place.
If we continue the conversation about Spalletti, he's kind of embraced this idea of maybe not an underdog mentality, but sort of knowing that the world is watching. The expectations for this Italian side has always been high, and they haven't met those expectations over the last few years. So if you're Spalletti and you're talking to this team that maybe has a little bit of a different identity, they're playing with that chip on your shoulder, what are the expectations for him from a managerial side in terms of the pressure that maybe he's facing?
Yeah, I think he'll be measured by how the team plays, number one, but more importantly will be the results. And can they get out of this group? I mean, they're second favorite to get out of the group, but I'm not quite sure. With the Spaniards are so good. We all know that the possession that they have. They can blow hot and cold with consistency in terms of scoring goals with Morata at the end of the day. Sometimes they don't put away their chances. But Spain, you would say, is the favorite to get out of the group. Then you have Croatia, right? You have the Brozovic, Modric, Kovacic midfield, right? You could look at that on paper and say that might be one of the best midfielders. Albeit they're older, they won't have as much energy, but they'll be difficult. In Albania, I mean, I remember watching Albania compete in the last few games and where they've got really positive results, and they're really physically at the level of the rest of the team, strong and organized, and they won't be easy points as well. So he will be judged by and measured by how far does he go in the tournament. And for me, I think that he has to, at the minimum, get out of this group, and it's not going to be easy.
Well, minimum, get out of the group when this is one of the more generous formats the Euro has seen, just like since 2016, right? Most of the third-place teams get out of the group. But let's imagine worst-case scenario. You beat Albania, right? 3 points. And then you lose the next two games to Spain and Croatia. Where does that leave Spalletti in the national team conversation? Would that have been enough to tell you that you need to make a change? Or have you seen what Spalletti has projected onto the field, that this is the way going forward towards 2026?
Yeah, Nico, that's a really good question. I think also this brings back the conversation of, it is a result-oriented business, but how will they play? I think that's important as well. If they don't get results against Croatia and Spain, what do those games look like? Are you absolutely dominated in those games? Do you have very little possession? Do you have very little ideas? And then you're going out to the knockout stages where you're not very good? Or did you play really well in those games and ask all the questions? You just didn't get the 3 points. So I think it'll be important, the style of football that they adopt and that they go to. Again, I'm going to say this again. The worry is that they've just only recently changed it. They've had so much time look at this and pick the players and pick the system, and only now, right before the tournament, they're switching it. So how comfortable will those players be? Again, there's going to be a lot to unfold here because we have a Croatia side that's aging. You have an Albanian side that we don't know too much about. I mean, some of the players that are in Albania, they have Aslani, Jimsiti, Kumbula, Barrami, Ismaili, Husai, Ramadani. I mean, these guys are all playing in the Serie at the highest levels of their clubs, so they're going to be difficult too. So it will be interesting to see what they play like and what the results are at the end of the day.
If we kind of contextualize the expectations here, you've got 9 players returning from that Champions League or that championship team a few years ago, but no Bonucci, no Chiellini on this team. Who are some of the leaders that you're expecting, to step up here and help sort of create an identity for Italy in this tournament?
Yeah, I think that the Inter 3 that we mentioned before, Barella, Bastoni, and Di Marco, are definitely the 3 that you're going to want to look for. Scamacca in the front. Obviously, every strong team needs a goal scorer. It needs to have the ability to score goals. So Scamacca, which version of Scamacca are we going to get? It's a Raspadori that we haven't seen really all season, and when he's played, he's been pretty poor. And then the 2 that are really interesting is Buongiorno and Calafiori in the back, because they are these modern, younger Italian center backs that we probably the casual Serie A fan or casual Italian fan hasn't seen that much of. So how will they play with the Azzurri, because they haven't had much experience in major competitions with them either.
Mike, thanks so much for hanging out with us here on Box to Box. Get some rest. You have deserved it. I know you've got an ice bath maybe waiting on you on the other side, but thanks for hanging out with us, getting us ready for the Euros coming up.
Thanks, guys. You're the best. Have a good day.